Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is lecture number 12 on policy applications in a series of lecture on introductory macroeconomics. There are some policy questions. When does it make sense to use fiscal policy or monetary policy? How are Keynesian and neoclassical perspectives applied in the real world? Under what circumstances do fiscal and monetary policy work well or not so well in managing the economy? For the activist Keynesians, what are the limits to fiscal and monetary policy that we would endorse and why? For the laissez-faire neoclassicals, what is the minimalist fiscal and monetary policy that makes sense and why? How is macroeconomic policy in real world more complicated than in theory? There are some viewpoints on government policy. First is the neoclassical perspective. These economists favor low taxes to stimulate aggregate supply and economic growth. They favor limited government expenditure and passive monetary policy. On the other hand, there is Keynesian perspective. The economy can be in equilibrium at a level of GDP that does not correspond to potential. The government has the responsibility to manage the economy, to encourage stimulating the economy during a recessionary time and slowing the economy during the boom. And Keynesian idea that when interest rates are very low, people are willing to hold cash rather than put it into financial markets, eliminating the ability for expansionary monetary policy to work, and this is known as liquidity trap. Phillips curve is very popular in macroeconomics and monetary economics. So we start with contractionary fiscal policy. Tax increases or cuts in government spending designed to decrease aggregate demand and reduce inflationary pressure. And in expansionary fiscal policy, tax cuts or increases in government spending designed to stimulate aggregate demand and move the economy out of recession. Phillips curve basically shows trade-off between unemployment and inflation. And stagflation is another situation in which there is a simultaneous increase in between unemployment and inflation. The discovery of the Phillips curve can be understood looking at this diagram. In 1950s, Phillips of London School of Economics was studying 60 years data for the British economy, and he discovered an apparent inverse relationship between unemployment and wage inflation. The original Keynesian view using ADAS model was the AS was L-shaped. Most Keynesian economists today have a more nuanced view of the aggregate supply curve. Policy implication, no Phillips curve trade-off in the long run. Neoclassical Phillips curve. There is always a temporary trade-off between inflation and unemployment, but there is no permanent trade-off between unemployment and inflation. This is the neoclassical perspective. And then there is a natural rate hypothesis, a neoclassicalist's view that since the long run aggregate supply curve is vertical, the long run Phillips curve is also vertical, and there is no trade-off in the long run between inflation and unemployment. The Keynesian view on Phillips curve, changes in inflation expectations and supply shocks cause Phillips curve to be vertical with no long run trade-off between inflation and unemployment. Neoclassical economics regarding rational expectation. Neoclassical economists ask why people don't learn that they consistently underestimate inflation. Shouldn't they learn from their mistakes if individuals are rational? Shouldn't they use all available information to improve their predictions of inflation, not just past values of it? Adaptive expectation. This was developed by Kagan, and this is the idea that people extrapolate from past values of some economic variables to predict future values of that variable. Demand management policy, using monetary and fiscal policy to influence aggregate demand and thus real GDP and employment. Rational expectation was developed by the neoclassical economists, including Robert Lucas and others. predictions equal to the predictions of the underlying economic model. Adaptive versus rational expectation. The natural rate hypothesis argues that while there may be trade-off between inflation and unemployment, in the short run there is no long-run trade-off between unemployment and inflation. Rational expectation says that economic agents should use all information they have about how the economy operates to make predictions about economic variables in the future. These ideas were formalized by John Muth, who said expectations are rational if they produce predictions equal to predictions of the underlying economic model. If economic agents have rational expectations, demand management policy can never be effective. Perspectives on crowding out. Early new classicals criticized Keynesian view about fiscal policy, ignoring the crowding out effect. Crowding out basically means expansionary fiscal policy that causes interest rate to rise, which reduces business investment, limiting the effects of the fiscal expansion. How much does it occur? New classical argue to complete crowding out, meaning that fiscal policy was completely ineffective since an increase in government spending would be completely offset by a decrease in private investment spending with no effect on the aggregate demand. The Keynesians argue for incomplete crowding out, thus fiscal policy would be weaker than originally thought, but still effective to a certain degree. These are Ricardian equivalence, how government borrowing affects private savings. So Ricardian equivalence, and there is twin deficits. There are some policy legs. All macroeconomic policies, including monetary and fiscal policy, they have some limitations or legs. The first one is recognition or data lag, the time it takes to determine that a recession has occurred. Then there is a decision lag, the time it takes to pass a bill. And then there is a implementation or a transmission lag, the time it takes to start projects or execute the monetary policy. And impact or effectiveness lag, or you can say response lag, and that is the time it takes for the new policy to play out. Policy implications, dampening business cycles versus disease fear. Three goals for macroeconomic policies include full employment, stable prices, economic growth, and there is one extra macroeconomic goal, that is external balance. Economy tends to grow over time as a result of increases in the quantity and quality of labor and capital and improvements in technology. New classical economists are predisposed towards market outcomes and are suspicious of using aggregate demand to manage the economy. Keynesian economists, on the other hand, are suspicious of market outcomes and lean towards demand management policies. Policy implications. What economic viewpoint focuses on aggregate demand to reduce unemployment and to stimulate the economy during a recession? What economic view believes if aggregate demand rises rapidly, it leads to inflationary pressure? Unemployment can be divided into two categories, cyclical and natural rate of unemployment. Keynesian economists worry about the loss of jobs and income that may persist over time. The new classicals think that given the real-world complications of fiscal and monetary policy discussed above, it is too difficult to get them right. Better to simply let the economy adjust back to potential output on its own. This is responding to real shocks to the economy. Changes in aggregate demand always result in unemployment going one way, while inflation goes the other. Changes in aggregate supply push inflation and unemployment in the same direction at the same time. If the shocks is positive, shifting AS to the right, this is very, very good since both inflation and unemployment fall. If the shocks is negative, shifting aggregate supply curve to the left, the output is not good since both inflation and unemployment rise. Summary of macroeconomic policy recommendations. The Keynesians believe that the costs of allowing economy to recover from recessionary or inflationary gaps are too high. They believe in promoting economic growth. They favor government investment in infrastructure, government spending, tax cuts for research and developments, human capital, education, and so on. On the other hand, the new classical do not believe in fine-tuning of the economy. They prefer to focus policy on economic growth. Economic growth is fostered by a stable economic environment with a low rate of inflation. Here are some questions for review. Summarize the new classical views on the effectiveness of fiscal and monetary policy. Summarize the Keynesian's views on the effectiveness of fiscal and monetary policy, including the importance of the expenditure multiplier. Phillips curve and its impact on theories of Keynesian economics. Phillips curve, how Phillips curve is derived from aggregate supply curve. What is the difference between Keynesian and the new classical views of the Phillips curve? How does the theory of rational expectation mean that demand management policy is ineffective? What is Ricardian equivalence and how does government borrowing affect private spending? What is the difference between types of policy lag? Here are some more questions. How does policy lags, policy imprecision, and time and politics complicate or compromise the effectiveness of fiscal and monetary policy? Compare and contrast Keynesian and new classical policy response to business cycle. Why is there no good policy response to a negative aggregate supply shock? What is the difference between monetary policies a new classical economist would recommend to promote economic growth and those a Keynesian economist would recommend? Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't yet subscribed to this YouTube channel, kindly subscribe to the channel and do not forget to click on the bell icon so that you can get notification about other informative and useful videos that I'll upload for you soon. I thank you very much for watching this video. You can share, you can like, or you can give comments in the comment section so that others could also benefit from this video. Thank you, and I'll see you in another video soon.